Greetings, good people. What's happening? My name is Dr. Clarence and welcome back to TV7 Live, where we get to give you all the hottest and top trending topics, broadcasting live and direct from Zimbabwe, Africa. Now, what do we have right here? We see this trouble for SADC chairman, President Emmerson Mnangagwa. In this video, we're going to be looking at the Mozambique elections and why President Emmerson Mnangagwa made the adjustments in the cabinet. What is his new strategy? What is he preparing for? We saw Professor Murwira and Frederick Shava changing ministries. One from the Ministry of Education, that is Professor Murwira. Then Frederick Shava coming to the Ministry of Higher and Tertiary Education. So while in the Ministry of Education, we had seen Professor Murwira there do a lot of things. One of the things that this guy would be doing is to do with the satellite that we saw being launched in the space. That was the brainchild of Professor Murwira. Now, at this time where ED's trajectory is going, it requires his strategic backup plan to swing into action. Now we're just gonna check some headlines to do with Southern African Development Community. What has been happening in this community. We see this one here. This is a Malawian newspaper, and the headline here reads, SADC call for removal of all sanctions on Zimbabwe. And this is a Malawian newspaper, and the Zimbabwe president ED is strategically the chairperson of the SADC. Then we see this one here. This one here is by Zim Papers. Right, so if we had only seen this one, all these are coming from today. If we had only seen this one in Zimbabwe, we would assume that this news is making news only in Zimbabwe. But we saw one from Malawi there. Now, this one is from Zimbabwe, right? Then we see All Africa News. SADC urges US, EU to lift Zimbabwe sanctions. Now, the message is not Mnangagwa says, it is SADC says, right? So that is Mnangagwa's strategy number one. We wouldn't call this diplomacy. Let's just call it international relations for now. So, Ambassador Frederick Shava had been the Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Trade. We saw him go to the United States of America. We all know how he articulates everything and everything. We're going to go into deeper details on that. Now we see this one here. This is Sunday Mail. All systems go for SADC Anti-Sanctions Day. And basically, these guys, I'm talking of the state, these guys have been talking about this. And then we are seeing in Mozambique, of course, the results are not yet out. They'll be out on the 20th, but already the elections are disputed in Mozambique. Did Zimbabwe play a role in the Mozambique elections? We saw some video clips making 6 rounds, right, where people were saying we voted for Frelimo, etc. I think at that time, at a time like this, ndopanofana kuya sasi ronzo torana idire kuti nyika ino vakwane nevayo. That was very humiliating, those videos that were making rounds. But where was that happening? And what is the current state of affairs in Mozambique? What are the allegations to do with the elections in the Mozambique? We see this one here.
Daniel Chapo, presidential candidate of Frelimo, Mozambique's ruling party, voting in last week's general election. Preliminary results released on Wednesday show it leading in all 11 provinces, making him likely to be the country's next president. But election observers say they have doubts over the integrity of the poll, saying it did not meet international standards. They've reported issues including disorganised counting, poorly sealed ballot boxes, vote buying, inflated voter rolls and intimidation in some areas. Opposition parties, meanwhile, have cried fraud, and at least one of them has called for a nationwide strike on Monday. Another has said it will challenge the results in court. Frelimo has governed Mozambique since its independence.
So far, that is the news. That is not necessarily all over, but that is the most spoken about. There is no speak of Zimbabwe. Big up to Prid Masave Nyamvura. Prid Maisave Nyamvura. Enough respect. Good evening there. Enough respect to everybody who's watching us live right now. Those watching us live, you can write comments in the top chat or in the super chat. That's how I can get your name so I can give you a shout outs. Now, if we get here, what do we have to do with Zimbabwe's involvement and the Mozambique election? We see this. Most of the media covering this is Zimbabwe press, Zimbabwe media. Right now we're seeing this one. iAfrica. Mozambique opposition election fraud is just a recent election. Is there Zimbabwe involved here? One thing that would happen if there is any allegations of anything to do with elections in SADC, the issue will eventually come to President Emerson Mnangagwa. Once again, the title of the video: why did Mnangagwa shift the ministers from education to foreign affairs? Another one here is DW News, which is not Zimbabwean. Zimbabwe's NPF supporters were reportedly issued Mozambican IDs to vote in the Mozambican elections, right?
Reportedly voted in Mozambique's elections held last Wednesday. Media reports say that Zimbabwean nationals were issued with Mozambican IDs so that they could vote for the ruling Frelimo party in the election. The ruling Frelimo party is the main party that fought for Mozambique's liberation and assisted Zimbabwe in its fight for independence. Since then, Frelimo and ZANU-PF have maintained close relations. Political observers say the voting by Zimbabweans in Mozambique's election could put into question the credibility of the poll outcome. Number 2, Sudan's military airstrike on a marketplace in the...
All right, so this is what has been happening. Election observers are saying this is a very serious allegations, right? And not me observing. Okay, anybody can observe, but the observers that she was talking about. Right, so these allegations is gold evidence, which means any rigging allegations, this should be its pivot, its fulcrum. This should be its main focus. If there is any allegation of rigging in Mozambique, and yes, there are allegations, but the question is, why not mention Zimbabwe's involvement? The answer is very simple and very clear. The video would surface on the very day of the election, and the people that were used to make that video, they are not so brilliant. Imagine the type of people you would pay money to do anything. They have a certain level of brilliance and a certain level of acting they can do. So one of them is already arrested in Mozambique, but most of the guys that we are seeing there were in Zimbabwe. When was that video made? That video would surface in April 2024, before the elections. That is when we first see that video, when there is allegations that ZANU-PF is registering people, right, in Zimbabwe. That location was not in Mozambique, right? That is what would happen. Now we come to the shift. I would have done a side-to-side comparison. Anyways, this guy is not yet Minister of Foreign Affairs. Now we are focusing on SADC. We see him doing things like this. This is 21 August 2024. ZFM. There's an interview with Rumidzai Takawira, and the talk of the interview is going to be post SADC summit, what is the regional industrialization plan? And who is the guest? The guest is Professor Shava Murwira, and the topic is what is the region's industrialization plan? And obviously education. We educate people, we educate a workforce with industrialization in mind. That should always be the focus. Here we see it's captioned Higher and Tertiary Education Minister. That is now him compared to Frederick Musiwa, Makamure, Shava. Frederick, Professor Shava Murwira, is somebody who would join governing or governance recently, right? Are all ministers equal? The answer is no. I think the most powerful minister is Opam Chinguri, the Minister
Daniel
of Defense.
Chapo, presidential candidate of Frelimo, Mozambique's ruling party.
There are some key ministries. However, also, the Ministry of Education is undermined. Ministry of Education is one ministry that goes across all the other ministries. It's like Ministry of Finance. It can interact with all the other ministries. They are all powerful, but here, according to perception, if we perceive it's powerful, then it's powerful. If we perceive that it's prestigious, it is prestigious. However, the one we can all agree on, which is in speculation and in practice very powerful, is the Ministry of Defense. Now, Frederick Musiwa Makamure Shava, prominent Zimbabwean politician, born March 20, 1949 in Chiwi, Southern Rhodesia. He has a long career of public service and diplomacy, right? So he serves as a Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Trade from February 2021, from February 2021 to now 2024 for 3 years, right? International relations and trade policies. Political career, he would join government first in the year 1981 as Minister of Labor, Manpower Planning and Development. He would serve for 5 years from 1981. So this is an experienced guy, just 1 year following the independence. Then he is the Minister of State for Political Affairs. I don't know what it is, whatever it was, but it's something to do with communication. It's again, because usually political science is to do with international relations. Political intelligence is to do with international relations. Should anything happen, a president or a leader should be accepted by the international community. Today, if we say, can we bring back Obama as president as if we are Americans, right? Let's just hypothesize. Would anybody say no? It's highly likely everybody would say yes. Everybody, I don't necessarily mean 100%, but a lot of people, especially those called everybody, would say yes, let's bring him back in power. How about if we say, can we bring back ED in power? What would everybody say? So we're seeing ED in a move to push his image to the international community. That is why we're seeing, even locally, he recently assisted the 40 kids whose monies were misappropriated by their college. We see him take action to do with the Mbari item there, and we are seeing him with VP Chiwenga putting an image of togetherness there. Now, this Shava, we see him 1987 Minister of State for Provincial Affairs at a strategic time. 2007-2014 he is ambassador to China, permanent representative to the United Nations from 2014 to 2021. That would be his most powerful position on his CV, because it has the letters U and N, meaning United Nations abbreviations, right? Then 2021 is appointed now Minister of Foreign Affairs. What does he achieve as Minister of Foreign Affairs? I don't know, right? But what we know him for, one, is a significant figure within ZANU-PF, Not only that, I take you back into time, right? So this guy is like Sewik Chivayo, in that he is a convicted criminal. Frederick Shava is like Sewik Chivayo in that he is a convicted criminal. Remember the Willowgate scandal, 1994, around that time, Willowvale Motor Industries, right? There are allegations around allegations of corruption involving government officials who misused their positions to profit from the sales of vehicles. So this story of sales of vehicles didn't start where we see Santana is a therapy being sold just before the land. It started way back 1994 Willowgate scandal, right? So that is coming 2 years after the ISAP, right? And around that time, that's where we see the Japanese cars now trending in Zimbabwe. We're seeing Hyundai, right? Auto. That is around the time where auto would be coming. And now Willowgate is selling some cars. Now, there's a commission, the Sandura Commission, which is investigating the scandal. And it concludes that Frederick Shava has abused his ministerial position by purchasing vehicles at discounted rates and reselling them for substantial profits, right? For instance, it would be cited that he made profits upwards of 140,000 within a year from these transactions. Now we're talking of 140,000 bucks. When $100, we didn't even have a united $100 kabatana. A united $100 would be coming in 1997. The first time I would see $100 in 1997 is when I accompanied my father to Zimbank, somewhere Pateno Paper Coca-Cola on the way to Mbare. That's the first time I see that black $100. The year is 1997. So imagine how much was it worth. That time is around the time my father is building in the rural areas, right? And he would build a 7-roomed house using 21,000 Zim dollars. And how much was $140,000? Now he is convicted, right? When he's convicted of perjury related to his testimony during the commission hearing, he's sentenced to 9 months in prison, but was pardoned by then President Robert Gabriel Mugabe just hours after his sentencing. Of course, that's what you do for a fellow, right? Get him out. He's our guy. Okay. Those things happened. Okay, we can arrest him for temptations. Okay, you benefited. Anybody could have benefited. Okay, just let the man go, like Mugabe would say in those days, right? And he would be speaking like with his hand gestures like that. All right. So now, Shava Murwira, who is he? An academic, more of an academic than a politician or a politician. Right, this guy will be educated in Netherlands, earning a Master's of Science in Environmental System Analysis and Monitoring, followed by a PhD in Geographic Information Science, GIS, and Remote Sensing. Right, I think coming from his academic background, that's why he would push for Zimbabwe's geospatial technology, where we see a launching of our satellite. Right, so this guy, he would be famous, be a famous lecturer at the University of Zimbabwe, Professor Shava Murwira. Before seeing him be made the Minister of Education, and at that time, President Mnangagwa is trying to bring in so-called technocrats. We want to bring technocrats, and he brings the disaster in the finance ministry. Whatever it is, of course, you know who it is. If you know, you know. If you don't know, it's impossible. Okay. Now, from the UZ, we see the man enters into the cabinet. Minister of Education, and we see him make contributions to higher education, policy formulations, right? Developing strategic policies to improve. Then you would include something that they call Education 5.0. Is it an Android or what? I don't know. I have not looked into it, but I know it's something that they call is prestigious, right? Education 5.0 model is the one we are using now. Of course, we are still using the ecosystem and all those other things to do with like real education, right? Now, this one 5.0 is something to do with innovation and industrialization, focusing on innovation, right? Then environmental initiatives, we see Zimbabwe National Geospatial and Space Agency, it is brainchild, right? Curriculum development, right? Is doing that, all that. Then environmental monitoring and management, education reforms, we see education reforms, climate change adaptation, collaborative projects, etc. He is somebody with a CV that looks bright. He has been a teacher, he's been at the University of Zimbabwe, ministerial reforms, educational reforms, innovative measures and all that. But how much brilliant is this guy such that he would need to be placed in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs? This would be Frederick Shava, Minister Frederick Shava there speaking. Right?
The 25th of October is the 5th year that SADC as a group is campaigning in solidarity with Zimbabwe for the total removal of sanctions against Zimbabwe. And you will know
you may allow me to say all protocol observed.
Was in fact introduced by the late President Magufuli when he was chairman of SADC 5 years ago. So Zimbabwe.
So that would be the articulation and what I would call the speaking or the politics of Frederick Shava. So this guy is more like a Jacob Mdenda type of guy, laid back, right? He cannot be politicking or convincing a people, right? Because sometimes there is need for a person who convinces, who makes people agree with him, whether they agree or not, right? And this is the move that we are seeing ED taking. What is he planned?
I will start, Your Excellency, with a truism, which I believe is a truism, that you cannot become what you don't know.
Now that is Professor Shava Murwira there. Bold in his speak and convincing, whether his facts are true or what, the way he presents it.
And you cannot become what you can't do. So it's about know and do. There is no surprises. In this region, we have the region and we have the people. And therefore, what is prosperity?
Remember, this guy is a professor, not a politician. Obviously, a professor would be more superior in that a professor is a student, is a learner. Big up to Pride Masaive. Clesius Chihinge, watching live from Pretoria, Glotki Kiwani says, indeed, SADC cared about the welfare of ordinary citizens of the region. There would be call for more for the political activists' rights and freedoms than only for lifting sanctions. That is very true. That is very true. Actually, that is very true. We should see that happening and reaching a conclusion that is very clear. We know this is the path to take etc. In Zimbabwe. We have failed that. Just look at the chaos in our parliament. And big up to Spencer Kawai. Good evening. Says truth to power. Keep on exposing the truth. Break God's covenants at your peril. That is very, very true. Yes. We remain true to truth. And God is truth. God is love. Yes. We remain very much with integrity. Integrity, diligence, integrity. That would be the motto for my primary school, for diligence and integrity, former primary school. Thomas, the big guy, say, Dr. C, a man of the people, pillar of society. I don't know. Okay, thank you very much for that positive feedback. Let's continue.
Prosperity is when we know and we can do, and we can provide for the food that we need. We can provide for the water that we need. We can provide for the transport that we need. We can provide for the shelter that we need. Prosperity is when you get life's needs.
So we can hear this guy, how he articulates. Now, in this Ministry of Foreign Affairs, you don't necessarily need to walk the talk. The talk does the walking, because the talk would be the walk.
Sorted out. If we have got country A and country B, and they have got exactly the same number of resources, same quality of resources.
Now, Minister A and Minister B, right? Same human beings, same ZANU-PF.
Country A and country B. But country A seems to be more developed than country B.
So, can you see why the later is X'd?
There is only one variable. It must be the people.
So the variable, you change what you can change to push a certain agenda. So he would maintain all the guys in the cabinet to show that I have nothing against these guys, but this one can do better here. Now, if person A can do better than person B in a certain field, isn't it more conducive and viable and preferable to do what works best without our so-called emotions, because our priority is to deliver? With that said, something must be done in the Ministry of Finance. It must be done very quickly. Now, civil servants, these guys, they've added $40, which is not $40. It's going to be paid in ZIG. Why announce it in US dollars? The methods they are using there, maybe that's the best they have. Some of the things need you to think deep or to not think deep, right? Some of these things need discourse, straight up discourse, unless it's deliberate. The last time I would go to RBZ and I'll meet the financial intelligence guys, I concluded this: either these guys really don't know, or the person who employed them deliberately employed them ignorant. We will continue with this in the morning. Dr. Clarence is the name. TV7 Live is the channel. Catch us tomorrow at 5 a.m. and 7 a.m.